for you this silent era is very important, and that you have this emotional link with this period and with this film and with this process. And can you tell us why?
Silent film is a culture which was killed. So the silent films have been totally obsolete when sound came. So it got so old-fashioned, it got so outdated. But I think this is the special thing which really touches me. It has a very typical, very touching way of expression. It is not that realistic necessarily. It has something like opera, it has something in a distance. But on the other hand, it brings you so directly to the times of it. It brings you to the core, I think, of pictures. And to tell a story with pictures alone, I think it is much more refined and poetic than having always a sound.
Nous nous trouvons ici à la Fondation Jérôme Seydoux-Pathé, et nous savons tous, nous des gens qui avons des liens avec l'Europe centrale et l'Europe orientale, quelle importance le matériel et le personnel Pathé ont eu au début du siècle pour le développement des cinématographies de cette Europe centrale et orientale. Comment vous sentez-vous? Quels sont les liens avec le cinéma de l'Empire à l'époque, avec les tout débuts du cinéma et les frères Pathé?
Pathé, as well as Gaumont, had in Vienna a headquarter, being not just responsible in a way for the Austro-Hungarian monarchy, but also for the Balkan. So it was in a sort a center in Vienna. And Pathé and Gaumont really supported also Austrian film production. So as we know nowadays, that the skills of Gaumont, for example, was used to make Austrian films at that time. They were developed in Paris sometimes, and the technical equipment came from there, and Austrian producers used it also widely. Some of the very best actualités were made, in fact, by Gaumont in Vienna.
Can you also introduce for us, because we have introduce for us this selection, your selection of erotical and propaganda films from the beginning of the century?
I think that erotic and propaganda is deeply interlinked, or even to say it a bit more direct, pornography and propaganda is directly interlinked. So Austria was a very repressive country in a way, especially during the First World War. There were in no other country that many political victims during the First World War, because the empire was disintegrating and the pressure which was put upon people was extremely high. And nonetheless, it was shaded in the cinema, and one didn't want to go too clear to the realities. But in fact, this connection is even found in our production situation. There was always a rumor that during the First War, especially for military use, pornographic films were made. So we made that very heavy propaganda films were made. And not so long ago, it's around 1.5 years, we found even some of these pornographic films. So there is not just the proof, there is this real evidence. There was a connection in a certain way. In fact, is more than an archival film. With its political presence, it is much more. Austria has really erased the Jewish culture we had. Although Austria is nowadays very proud of being a part of this extremely rich Jewish culture which really enlightened the monarchy in a way. But it is a very sad story, and so this film is much more. It's a document of a time. And it's also a document of the aggressivity which lasted in our society as well.